All right, welcome everyone. In case you did not know where you are, that video just told you exactly where you are. So I hope it's been a good show for everyone. This is the last panel of the event. So congratulations, you all made it this far. It's after lunch. I did not see the coffee van outside, unfortunately, but hopefully you've all been able to adequately caffeinate yourselves. And if you did not, I will make sure that we keep it nice and spicy up here. So it's gonna be interesting. My name is Brent. Oh, by the way, you're at the panel of ROI of AI in ag. That's what we're talking about. And some of the panels today have kind of touched on it in a brief moment, but we're gonna dive deep in it. And we're gonna introduce the panelists here in a minute. My name is Brent. I am the Chief Strategy Officer of Verdant Robotics as of Monday. I think I'm still listed as the AI Technology Executive. Some of you may formerly know me as the CEO of Stout. As I said, I just came on recently. What we're missing up here, and I mentioned this to our panelists, is we don't have a grower. And we would very much have liked to have had a grower. I did try to get a grower, but the growers are very, very busy, and it was very last minute. And so I was not able to get one. That is my failure. I'm sorry. But many of us up here come from a background in ag. Myself, I am a multi-generational grower. I am the only one, well, myself and my brothers and sister chose to go the technology route instead of staying on the farm. But we had 1,000 acres up in Northern California in a place called Davis Creek. And if you know where that is, you either were horribly lost at one point in time, or we may be related. So yeah, so that's our background. We're gonna roll through and kind of I'm gonna ask these guys to introduce themselves, but we're going to do our best to represent the grower perspective as well as where we each come from. We have OEM perspective up here. We've got finance perspective up here. We have software perspective up here. So we've got a good bunch of different insights into the ROI question. And like I said, I'm going to try to keep us focused on the customers as well. So Jorge, let's start with you. Just give us a good, quick couple minutes on your background.
Yeah, excellent. Hey, Jorge HERAUD. I'm Vice President of Automation and Autonomy for John Deere. Came to John Deere through the acquisition of Blue River Company, Blue River Technology, which is a company that I co-founded and I was the CEO of. So the acquisition, Blue River was started in 2011. The acquisition happened in 2017, 6 years ago, and it's been fun now. This part of my career to be working in John Deere. So the startup, so the established company, and now we're at the stage of scaling robotics. A little bit about myself. I grew up in Peru. I'm Peruvian, but I've been living in the US for about 30 years. Grandfather was a farmer, so I picked tomatoes during my summers. I would go and help with harvesting market fresh tomatoes. So that was my first exposure to farming, and came to the States to study. So I have a master's in electrical engineering and engineering management from Stanford, and then worked at a company called Trimble Navigation for about 14 and a half years. I was the head of engineering for agriculture, head of precision agriculture, and then went back to Stanford to do an MBA, and out of that decided to start Blue River, a company that works on computer vision, machine learning, AI, and all this fun things that I remember in 2011 they were just starting, but now they're blossoming.
Very good.
Thank you all for coming. My name is Ron Osborne. I'm the Global Head of Technology for the Agriculture Industry segment inside of Amazon Web Services. I'm approaching 47, so if you count gestation period, I've been consuming food for a little close to 48 years now in various degrees, so I feel like I've got a good foundation for bringing the consumer's perspective up here anyway.
That is a perspective.
That's right, that's right. I'm from Omaha, Nebraska, and so most of my sort of family background in farming was always corn and beans, rotated by corn and beans, of course. Prior to joining AWS, I most recently was a chief technology officer at a company called Farmer's Edge, making decision support technologies and a variety of different technologies for farms in Eastern Europe, North America, South America, and some in Australia, New Zealand, and have had a really wonderful experience in the industry, watching the transformation from idea of this is how we want things to be, to then now being able to truly implement some of the technologies that are here and some of the technologies that are coming. When the cost of technology has gone down, the cost of telecommunications have gone down. There's been really excellent innovation by companies like Blue River and Deere and many others. And so I look at this as truly an exciting time to truly be a part of this whole community, because we're able to innovate on things that were science fiction not too long ago, and it's exciting thinking about where things will be in the not too distant future. So excited to be here. Thanks for being on allowing me on the panel and have some fun.
Thanks, Ron. Martin?
Perfect. Hi, I'm Martin ULLMANN. I'm co-founder of ULLMANNA. We came from Europe. Here's the first time here for us in US to see what's happening here. And we developed a technology which integrated AI or machine vision, machine learning quite a lot. It's our key component. And we provide services to manufacturers and to farmers. And for us, the key thing that to show that AI is here. We are not talking about tomorrow. We are talking about today. Our machines are in the fields. You can order it if you want to, or our technology. And it's clear case that we reduce the amount of needed manual labor, and that's what farmers likes. And my background, I'm an IT guy, I'm not agriculture guy. My father-in-law, he's also co-founder. He spent more than 50 years on the farming, and he came one day, he came to me and, hey, we have some kind of issue, problem in organic farming, how to deal with it. And I just said, okay, this is a great idea. I think IT can help you without even knowing that other companies already started doing it. So I just fall in love with it, and now I'm here.
Very good. Trevor?
Cool, yeah, thanks. Trevor SIECK, I'm with Rabobank, North America Wholesale Banking, where I really look after emerging technologies as they enter our global network and support them as they scale within there. So that takes different shapes and forms. But essentially, our ambition is to see the technologies that are just coming out of university settings scale to become clients of the bank. And with the recognition that that's a very wide chasm, how do we support them throughout that journey, adding value and understanding to our clients, direct investments, advisory, et cetera. So this does range. My personal background, I think, lends itself quite well to that, where growing up on a diversified market farm, you are forced to really embrace that spirit of innovation with recognition that growers themselves are these amazing innovators. They're solving problems at such an interesting and amazing rate. So that's really the catalyst for me as I moved from more traditional agriculture into roles at IDEO Consulting and the Target Corporation, really where I brought that understanding upstream for them, where their clients and or operations are asking very similar questions that are being asked of growers on the farm, which is how can we do things faster, more efficiently, more consciously for the environment. So this is all a fairly linear path, and one that I'm proud to continue at Rabobank.
Great, thank you. So I think part of the reason why this topic is so important is because we're still relatively in the early stages of AI in the agriculture space, right? And so a lot of growers are starting to wonder, how does the inclusion of AI in agricultural equipment, right? And I realize that there's some AI that functions at the software level, and then there's AI that comes in and operates on the hardware side as well. But what are some of those factors that AI brings to the ROI equation for a grower, or even from a financing perspective, or from a manufacturing or a software perspective, that growers need to be thinking about when they're trying to wrap their head around, is this stuff even worth it, right? Because I've got the traditional equipment that I've been using for decades, or in many cases generations, and now up comes this smart equipment, and how do I think about that from an ROI perspective? Or is it just, it's the same assumptions that I make on my traditional equipment that I should be applying to an AI-powered piece of equipment or software? Jorge, you want to jump on that?
Yeah, I can get it. I can get it started. There's several angles to look at, in which to look at AI, right? As you said, finance. Another one is decision engine, and giving advice and helping the farmers with decisions. The one I'm going to maybe focus on is a third one, which is the one that is probably the most on display here in this conference, is in the product side, making smart products, making machines that are crossing the boundaries between machines and robots. They're starting to be more autonomous and smarter. And I believe that the value that these machines can provide kind of falls into three categories. One is increasing productivity, right? If you were able to do X and now you can do 2X in the same amount of time, that's a big value. That means you can produce more, work more land, do more things. So that's a big value. A second value that you can do is increasing profitability, right? And profitability means doing more with less, right? So either you can do it by increasing yields per unit area, or you can do it by decreasing input costs, right? In making that difference between your costs and your revenues be as big as possible, increasing your profitability, driving that wedge. So profitability is a second area that it can help. I'll point an example of a product that I've been working for a while, and several companies are working on spot spray. Instead of spraying the entire field, you just spray what you need. So you do the same amount in that case with less inputs. That's a very good value proposition. And the third area where there's value is in the sustainability. And this one is a little bit harder to quantify, but robotics can really help. Robotics, AI, smart machines can really help on sustainability. And the ROI of sustainability is, again, a little bit harder to quantify, but it's very important. It's every farmer is a steward of the land. Most of the land is passed from generation to generation, and maintaining it, taking care for the next generation is incredibly important to all farmers. So doing things in ways that are smarter. One side note is that's where the name Blue River, the company that I started, comes from, is the sustainability impact that you can have by doing the correct practices.
Very good.
You know, when I was listening to you, Jorge, one of the first of all, you stole some of what I was going to say, but I'm joking. But no, I'm joking.
There's going to be a lot of that, so just get used to it.
But I think some of the elements of AI that I can talk about from AWS, and there are many examples and services that AWS builds and supports, but really the customer from an AWS perspective, in some instances can be a farm. But generally speaking, it's the industry. It's companies like manufacturers and others that consume some of these technologies. And so one of the things that I would actually bring up is the cost of goods sold, right? So there's a willingness to pay that a farm will have based upon share of wallet and all kinds of financial decisions. A lot of our focus at AWS is really attacking what we call this undifferentiated heavy lifting, which is how can we be an enabler so that our customers can create AI-enabled products at a price point that the farms can consume, at a price point that there's a willingness to pay and an ability to pay. And so one of the, you mentioned from a software perspective, so I'll give a little bit of a software perspective to kind of augment Jorge. We have an AI-enabled product for the non-software developers in the room. Imagine a tool that software developers use called an integrated development environment where you write your code. And what we've been able to really see is customers that use AI inside of what we call Code Whisperer, this tool that helps software developers write code, is they're able to finish projects 57% faster. Now, if you extrapolate that out, right, that turns into a meaningful savings and a meaningful efficiency for the customer. And our thesis is by enabling our customers to be able to create the types of technologies and infrastructure that power the modern farm, you can lower the cost of goods. And when we do that as a collective industry, now you can get those technologies out on the farms, not just the large mega farms, but down to the farms that really need it, that are trying to scale, that are dealing with labor shortages, that are trying to answer those questions. How do I compete in 2025 and 2030 as an example? And that's really what our obsession is lowering the barrier and democratizing the technology so that all of the different stakeholders here can embrace it and deploy it.
Okay.
Yeah, to build on that, I think like there are several maxims around investment broadly written that I was thinking about ahead of this, and you touched on the first one, which is, I think, a helpful guardrail for growers in particular. So just to bring that back down to the grower level, what kind of game are you playing? So just as a basis of understanding, you want to be in a win-win engagement. You do not want to be having an end-to-end solution as much as you want to be looking for those collaboration moments and those technologies that can augment your innovation, your specific investments, so that your ROI can be, the risk can be shared, and the benefit can be that much more direct for your operation. So I think absolutely, like, if there are industry players that have been kind of thinking about this, maybe even tangentially, that's going to be your best, one of your best resources and advocates for growth. And if there's a bolt-on or a modularity that you can provide, whether it's from your network or your own workshop, that's going to provide like a better path to ROI for your overall operation, in my belief, and a better investment, clearly.
Okay. Martin, you have anything to jump on?
Yeah, I would like to tell maybe from my perspective the ROI. For us, it's as a company which providing a products to farmers or for manufacturers, it's a mantra, like otherwise we won't be exist if we cannot have a positive ROI for farmers. So we provide a product which helps especially organic farmers to shrink the labor, let's say, labor needs. So we have intra-row weeding, and we know, okay, here it's the similar as in Western Europe. You pay for a manual worker like $15 per hour. And in Europe, for instance, in crops in sugar beet, they need from 200 to 300 hours per season per hectare, which is like 2 acres, hectare. Yeah.
2.5.
Good enough for this panel. Keep going.
So you need a lot of money, and you are throwing away, let's say, kind of for people, and you have to deal with the people. So then we come and say, okay, our machine costs this amount of money. It will do this amount of hectares per hour. They start thinking, they start comparing, and then they found, okay, within 2-3 years, I can get money back. I don't have to deal with a lot of people, sometimes not easy deal with people. And also they can go and do the stuff even in Friday evening with the machine. So this is very important, and for ourselves and our company, this is not a tomorrow thing. Calculating ROI, this is a real thing where we can show to farmers that it can really make it positive to invest into the machines, which are investment than just burning the money to manual workers.
So I'm a little surprised that I didn't hear two things. One was the fact that in my opinion, one of the greatest benefits that AI brings to the ROI of a piece of equipment is the software-defined nature of it, which means that versus that piece of equipment over there that is a non-AI powered unit, 2 years from now, it's just going to be a 2-year-old non-AI powered piece of equipment that does the same stuff it always does. This smart implement or smart tractor, smart whatever, if it's processed correctly in the head of Brent, 2 years from now, it's like twice as capable as it was when I bought it, because it gets over-the-air updates, it's software enabled, so it can do completely different things than it could when I bought the thing. And that has to factor into the ROI. Like, this is, I just extended the life of my equipment exponentially and added new functionality to my program that I didn't even have before. And if you're like scratching your head, what is he talking about? I'll use weeding since Martin mentioned that. So I buy a weeder. It's a software-enabled weeder, and today that's what it does. It weeds. But over the next 2 years, I'm able to download over-the-air updates, and suddenly it thins, and suddenly it rogues, and suddenly it does all these other things that my old piece of equipment over here can't do, and it couldn't do it when I bought it, but it does now. So I would think that would impact my ROI pretty significantly. The other piece to this is the data side. Like, those dumb pieces of equipment, they don't generate any data. But these AI pieces of equipment, they're generating terabytes of data as they're rolling through the field. And what am I using that data for? And I think that's one of the biggest questions today with growers is, I don't know what to use that data for, quite frankly. And maybe that's something, Ron, that you've got some insight into is, obviously the space is growing exponentially. How is AWS helping growers figure out the payback on all of this data that's coming through the pipeline?
The way that we view agribusiness is really at the macro level, right? So we view it as a global supply chain that's comprised of Rabobanks and the financial services, insurance products, risk transfer to OEMs, seed chem, really this wonderful orchestra of stakeholders that are critical. And so when we're working with customers, we start with this working backwards methodology of asking those questions. How can we help the farmer to be able to realize the value, right? Because when they realize the value, that's when they're making improved decisions, whether that be variable rate irrigation to you name it. But there are a lot of different ways customers are seeing value of the data. Some of it is on one end of the spectrum is working with financial service providers. So by recording data and showcasing data to some, let's say, insurance companies as an example, they're actually able to negotiate, they're able to build private insurance products that are actually tailored for their farm, not necessarily based upon a 30-year weather average on weather models that are somewhat antiquated, but creating new parametric insurance, new types of multi-peril products specifically for their farm at a price point for their farm. And if you ask yourself, it's different in every geography, insurance is structured differently around the world, but if you just ask the question, if you are making certain decisions on your farm, if you're making investments, if you're bringing on Blue River technology or Verdant technology or really any of the companies here, and your neighbor down the road is not, why would your farm be priced? Why would your insurance products be priced the same as somebody else's when you are actually demonstrating a progressive usage of technology and doing a lot of other things? And so, there's the decision making on the farm. There's the decision making for inputs and irrigation scheduling and all the things that are exciting here. And then there's other parts of the industry where people are changing. It's changing now. People are looking at creating other types of value that are beyond just identifying limiting factors or increasing yield. But I think you're going to continue to see change in financial services, risk management, credit scoring models, all across the supply chain based upon the technologies that are built here and described here.
Trevor, is that true?
Yeah, absolutely. And we had the opportunity to kind of very quickly get into this before because it's exactly the conversation that I hear not only internally but across the industry. And it's not necessarily like we had to compartmentalize ROI in a way. Like, we have the year-over-year returns that with a improved tool you are going to see better returns, but it's almost like from an investment perspective, like, where is the value hiding under the cloud the most? not the cloud as you know it, but just like figuratively. And those are in the ancillary benefits that we don't know that these models can contribute to yet. And so a lot of those, even what I've been hearing from like the UV light tech, it relates to biodiversity and other elements that are going to promote soil stewardship that are just not quantified yet. And then there's a more practical road like you're describing, which, it's inclusive of risk mitigation. So for a financial institution, like I said, the holy grail, like figuring this out is going to have a fundamental change in operation, but also will bring your constituent growers a lot more ease in terms of how they operate, a lot less waste in terms of how they're harvesting, et cetera. And ultimately, the key ancillary benefit that I find to be the most interesting and truly unexplored is like how we're drawing a linear path from those production data points to the consumer. So some of the more forward-thinking aggregators and AI models are starting to quantify the sustainability metrics that they're collecting and translating that downstream so that your consumers can have a clear-eyed view of exactly what they're supporting, et cetera, not only from an ethical perspective, but from a nutrient perspective and a personal health perspective. So like once you start to really think of how do we put a number on that ROI? Like what is that? It's just trillions of dollars most likely. But it's also like would be an amazing outcome, right? There's so many good stories to tell from that. So like we're working up to that, and if year over year, 5-year horizon, 10-year horizon, the growers can continue to optimize their operations, that is a all-in win, in my opinion. So that's what I get excited about as well, myself.
So, and I do think that there's that whole mindset of how do I wrap my head around this? How do I make sure that I'm considering all the options when I'm trying to put different pieces of equipment into the mix, and it's very hard to work through the hype, right? Because a lot of these companies are talking about capabilities that may or may not ever come to fruition, and the as I mentioned, the data side, something that if you talk to the media, right, the AI is set to overtake humanity tomorrow, and we're all going to wind up running from robots. So from a grower's perspective, it's very hard to understand where does the line, where is the line on this AI drawn? And what I've heard is great concern over, I don't employ AI engineers on my operation. So if I bring in an AI-powered piece of equipment or piece of software and it goes south on me, who's fixing it? Am I just going to wind up with a super expensive paperweight? And Jorge, I'm sure you probably run into this.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I think that there's two parts to the business of delivering robots in a successful way. One is the figuring out what the problem you're trying to solve is and creating the machine, all the technology that goes into that, right? And that's very hard and very important. But the other part that is very big on delivering robots successfully is doing it in a way that the robot is very reliable, that it can be supported locally, that the customer can buy it with confidence, that the customer trusts what that robot does, and I'm calling that the last mile. And maybe one thing to share there is that we were at Blue River, we were very good at defining and finding a really good problem and creating a technology that could work on See and Spray. And the part that we didn't have is that how do we deliver that in a way that a brand that is now not known in Blue River at that time, and right when we were a little startup, how can a customer spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on this technology? And that's one of the big things that John Deere solved on the acquisition, is this trust, this dealer network, this ability to go and touch the machines, service the machines, be be there behind. With the way we do it at John Deere Blue River is we have all this, we have this levels of support. So we have level 3, level 2, level 1 support, right? So the first level is going to be the customer through the display, trying to understand what is going on, and getting really great tools, maybe helped by the dealer. The second level goes from the customer to the dealer, and then the next level is going all the way to the experts that are closer to design of the product, so we can help the farmers. Another part of that is testing. It's one thing to do a product that works one time, a really cool demonstration, and another one is a product that works day in and day out, and the customer can trust. And it takes time, it takes iterations, it takes a lot of investment to make that happen. And again, all those things, that last mile, are, in my opinion, ways that that we need to figure out how to traverse, how to deliver. The way we did it is through acquisition, but there's other ways of going and building that.
Brent, you brought up, you said one of the things that was sort of missing was this notion of the software model of the equipment itself. I want to just touch on that just for a moment. To me, when I listen to, Jorge, when you're talking about those degrees of, let's say, AI built into the machine, it's exciting to hear. Where my head kind of went to was really in South America as an example. And so have a lot of experience building mesh networks in Brazil, dealing with the absence of reliable telecommunications, really, things that we kind of take for granted. And it's different everywhere, but one of the ways that AWS is really going to be transforming telecommunications globally over the next 18 months is through something we call Project Kuiper, where we're launching 3,000 communication satellites that will be orbiting the planet, and it will literally bring telecommunications to anywhere on the planet at a price point that in human history we've never had. And so when you think about the evolution of your equipment, and when you think of the evolution of AI updating models, right, a new disease, a new pest, a new weed, something that's in some region that some of your optics are observing, how do you train those models? Well, we have to be able to update them over the air, and so we're making major investments in new ways that I just think, I kind of said it in my opening statement, where we're going to be 20 years from now, when we have this type of infrastructure, this type of investments into computer vision, and it's really the orchestra of embedded engineering, computer vision as an example, models at the machine, at the edge, with telecommunications, and being able to run big data models in the cloud, and how those two interact will power dealer networks to know what kind of parts and how to address machine issues if they have any. So we're excited about that too.
So if I were a grower and I know that AI stands for artificial intelligence, and my AI-powered piece of equipment goes down, the first question in my head is, why do I have to call anybody? Why can't I just ask the stupid machine? Martin, how close are we to having that solution?
Not yet. Well, today you can do that through this ChatGPT. We have a direct connection to the internet.
So there you go. With Martin's machine, he has ChatGPT on board. You just ask it what went wrong.
You can try. Yeah.
You can try it.
No, now it's easy with ChatGPT and API models. For us, it's I would say we have direct connection, data connection to the machine. Not because of spying or something, but because of remote support, and also we are getting some data. And when you're commenting about the data, I would say we are collecting a lot of data. We're using them for statistics that see, for instance, some trends or some bugs we can realize by this data comparison, which is great. But when I ask farmers, when I think, okay, hey, what do you think about if we give you this and that? I say, yeah, that's nice. Are you willing to pay for it? No. So I think sometimes a lot of people come with a lot of ideas, like with 5G networks. It's future of mobile. But what's happening? Nothing. And I would be a little bit cautious about this big data and all these things, coming back to the farmer and asking, is it useful for you? And especially, are you willing to pay for it? And that's what we are dealing with. And I haven't found yet some secret recipe, what kind of data farmers want. What I see is the big companies are very interested about this data because it helps them for their businesses, but not too much for farmers. And another thing with robots, it's maybe not good to talk about that. I'm not so big believer in robots on the robotic conference, but I'm just wanting to say what, when I'm speaking with farmers, they say, we don't want robots, it doesn't work. We want to be there with the tractor and control it, what's happening. So we see that, that's why we're focusing not on autonomous machines, but on implements behind tractor. And I think the future will be for farmers like John Deere is doing, the autonomous tractor. And with smart implements behind it, where you can utilize AI and so on. That's what I see, what farmers say, I don't want to have a full garage of different robots, and to have a smart tractor and different implements.
But wouldn't you agree, I guess I'll just ask, that from a farmer's perspective, they might not have a strong willingness to pay for some advanced big data analytic as an example, but they're expecting their agronomist to have those answers. They're expecting the crop consultant to have those answers. And so do you see that in the European market where, before you answer that, I'll give you an example. You can go to, I live in Omaha, you can go to a little restaurant in Wahoo, Nebraska, any random morning, and you'll see a collection of farmers sitting there, and that's big data, right? What they're doing is they're asking each other questions, like, what the cow variety you're using for this? What do you use Golden Harvest? Whatever that you're planting. What they're looking for is information, but having that information at a regional level, at a scale where it's not just an anecdote, but being able to say, I'm seeing these statistical trends in a 100-mile radius with my exact soil type, with such similarities with my elevation model as an example, that now I feel like I'm getting that kitchen table experience times 1,000. That's sort of in the US, but do you see that same expectation from the European farmer working with the agronomist and expecting them to have those big data analytics?
I see this on the company which are selling this solution. They think so. But for instance, my father-in-law, he's agronomist for 50 years, and he's very conservative. And a lot of farmers are very conservative. The old guys won't go for this, and they're saying, okay, only those who go into the fields have a yield, something like that. Yeah. So, and they say, hey, I'm learning all the time, every year, the Mother Nature just always give us a surprise, and it took me 10 years to understand my fields. And they don't believe that this technology will make it. The younger guys, they go for it. Someone is successful with it, and it's great, someone it's not. But they are trying, which is good, and I mean, all the data it's positive. They might give you some more information, more insights, but I think the farmers should not rely only on it, but have the common sense and compare and and make their own opinion.
Yeah, so I mean, just on the willingness to pay, like I think that the technology sector asks a lot of growers. They're asking for a lot of different types of change management on a regular basis. So we really need to differentiate basically a beta user from the cost of being a beta user from the switching cost for that same grower. So like really being clear that if you're in camp A, you're in an experimental mode, and then if you're in camp B, you've already missed out on this growth curve that is going to impact the future generation of your farm. And so for farmers, like they really need to reconcile with that in a way as well. And so like for them, they need to be able to sleep at night, and they also need to be able to eat. So like these are two sort of very real sort of responsibilities that are going to help, that are going to make seeing the difference between early adoption and the inevitability of like the future and the knowledge that you are going to bring this exponential growth to our industry that needs to be communicated somehow differently so that they're not left behind ultimately, in my belief.
All right, so we've only got a few minutes left, but I want to make sure that we've got time for questions. Do we have a mic to wander? Okay, I'm getting hands. All right, questions. Get your hands up. We got some in the back.
Hi, Rahul here, work for Barefly Robotics, John Deere. Quick question for the folks on the panel here. How much will regulation and the infrastructure that is developed through regulation help the industry? Because it seems like most companies in blue ocean fields that are very new need both the regulation to contain and have selection pressure, but also momentum to go forward and direction to go forward. So curious about like labor laws, curious about technology regulation regards to safety. Like, what do you think will be the future in terms of this?
Big question. And I would even add, because this is about ROI, right? So regulations are a big risk around AI, I would say, because there's concern about, well, what if the AI gets too smart and it starts sending my images to China or something or whatever, like not saying that would happen. But there's also the other side to that, which is government programs that help pay for AI-enabled equipment and stuff, which impacts my ROI on my stuff. So where are your thoughts on this? Who wants to jump in?
I can start it. Yeah, hey, regulation can be a blessing, can be a nightmare. It depends on which one is specifically and how it's done. The spirit of regulations is there to help consumers, to help society. The spirit is good, but then when you start getting into the how does it get implemented, it can be helpful, it can be unhelpful. One of the ones that topical for this crowd is California has regulations on autonomous vehicles, right? And is that good for consumers? Is that good for farmers? Is that good for California, or is that bad? Or is that pushing the industry to some other locations? I think it's a little bit of both.
I think from our perspective, I would also agree. The spirit of the regulation is there to protect the environment, protect the consumer, and have a social contract where we have a planet we can live on and be happy. Our focus is by providing infrastructure that allows our customers to adapt to them. And so that sort of manifests itself in 200 different services that we provide, but the essence of the spirit of what we produce is to be able to adapt, to scale, to change in a way where you can still maintain cost leadership, can still maintain that cost of goods sold, so that there is a willingness to pay and an ability to pay. But that really, from us, it's sort of a foundational principle of what we focus on, which is obsessing around how can we make it cost effective to innovate and then again be able to change.
Well, I'm coming from Europe, and I think when you say regulation, I think you don't know what you're talking about. Because
a lot to learn.
we are the masters in regulations. But it's like, I would say in our case, it's like trend is your friend. Regulation, it's positive, negative. Regulation, chemicals are regulated. For us, as a provider of non-chemical solution, it's great. It gives us more attraction. But also in Europe, regulation works in also not just only like punch you, but also give you the money. So we have a lot of grants from European Union. And imagine that we are a company which trying to help with this regulation to increase non-chemical weeding. So we got a grant from the European Union for that, which is great. And also, when we're selling our products, the farmers get incentives to buy it. So for us, the regulation works in our favor. We get money, farmers get some extra money, and all it's actually for greater good to be more sustainable. So I think it works.
There you go. Next question.
Adrian Card from Colorado State University. And Brent, really appreciated your thoughts about how there's this continuum of functionality where we can bolt on different things that this equipment does. And what I keep having this conversation at FIRA is through ground rigs, through aerial UAVs, we're hoovering up all this data. And it seems like one of the key ROI or value-added pieces could be, but I don't think it's fully realized, is how to help farmers make better decisions. Because I think right now, the conversations that I hear is, there's this aerial map other than a stand count, but it's NDVI or other data. Here's your map. There's no great interpretation or confidence in how to use that data to make a decision. So what are we doing to help improve that part of the ROI?
Well, I'll touch on that just for a moment. I love that example that you gave in regards to remote sensing and Earth observation. That's really, I'm looking at this countdown. Are we going to be yanked off?
You better talk fast.
Okay, so I'll do it very quickly. We're making major investments into geospatial, which touches on drones and aerial and a variety of different pieces, being able to not just identify an issue, but understand what the root cause was. And I think that's what you're really going to see this next generation of what we're bringing as an example with SageMaker Geospatial is at scale, identifying issues, and not just by reds, yellows, and greens on a map, but what is the issue? And how does that then translate into an updated prescription, into a supply chain decision, into a parts and procurement, all fully automatically. That's what you're really going to see in this next wave of technology.
And I think my only add to that would be, I personally want to encourage us to push AI harder. And what AI does best is ingest massive amounts of data that humans really can't, and find trends and find solutions in that data. We just have to be asking the questions. There are entire jobs now that the entire job is, I forget what it's called, but it's like a prompt engineer or something, where I'm literally asking questions of ChatGPT, and I get paid money to do that because I know how to ask the right questions. We're not asking the right questions of AI today to transform the processes that we have. So I think that the data ingestion is super important because the AI can't function without it, but we as humanity should be expecting more from the AI in terms of don't just solve what I'm asking you for, help me figure out a better way to do it entirely, right? And agriculture is one of those spaces where we've been doing the same stuff for millennia. We've been planting the same way, harvesting the same way, all this kind of stuff. We haven't even touched the tip of the spear on what AI could do from all of those data points and helping us look at this from a different perspective. We just have to be brave enough to do it. So I am sorry, but we are out of time, and I took us into the red. I apologize for that. But I really appreciate everyone being here this afternoon. I hope the show has been very useful for you. I think there are still some demos happening in the field, and we are still available. I'm speaking for all of them. We're all still available to answer your questions here in the few minutes after the event here. So thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Great to meet you, Jorge.
Hey, good job. Really
Yeah,
good job.
thank you.